Hello. Meow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. My name is Colin.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Ben.
And we have a special guest today, Ben Kessel.
Yeah,
That's
Ben!
right. That's right.
Hi.
His last name
Thanks
is
for having me.
Kessel. It's not a fake
Yes.
name because he's a Star Wars fan. That's his actual last name.
is
He's a
mine.
real person.
It
Ben
is.
Kessel. Very cool.
I like to think I'm a real person. Thank you.
Yes. And also, fun fact, he's from New Zealand, all the way in the Outer Rim territories.
Yes.
It's
Well,
Ben
fun for you.
Parnaneros. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So there's actually a decent amount to talk about. We just got done watching the new episode of Andor, episode 11. That was pretty cool. There were some callbacks to the sequels in there. There were a lot of stories that have been building up through the entire show leading up to the last episode, and it happened in this episode. So we're very excited for the last one. And there's a lot of other news happening. But first, let's break down the episode. Josh, start us out.
All right. Okay, so that the episode ends up beginning basically just where we basically left off from the last episode. They are climbing a rock wall currently as they're still making their escape right now. And then Andor sees the ship above, and he's like, forget his name. The guy's like, hey, I actually can't feel my feet. They've obviously been trying to get out of there for a while. So what do you guys think of that? That quick scene.
I love the fact that the ship that they use is, I mean, of the Imperials uses the same one that we see in one of the opening shots in Rogue One, and it's where we actually see Cassian for the first time on the, I can't think of the asteroid city base thing in Rogue One, but it's like we like see that ship like there, and then we see it in this one, and we haven't seen it since Rogue One, so I thought that was pretty cool. But I honestly think that it was interesting that they didn't run into any other prisoners that got off of the prison. So I'm really curious if they're going to run into any of them. And kind of going into what we'll talk earlier, just to kind of have it out of the way. But the writers and directors did say that Kino lives. He survived. We don't know how he survived. Maybe he killed an officer and put on his uniform. Maybe he waited until a ship came to the platform. I guarantee the prison has some type of escape pod system type thing, just in case if like the thing was sinking. So somehow he survived.
Snoke. Please no Snoke.
Please no Snoke. That's all I ask. And if he is, I don't want a comic about it. And that's something
I can already see them being like,
no,
the Empire needed a new leader. All right, and they said Kino would have been a great leader. So they're like, all right, let's clone him and put the Emperor's essence into it.
Dude,
watch them do something like that.
I'm good. Because of I mean, and I've talked about this a lot, but I think it's probably one of the dumbest things they've ever done, which was where between episode 5 and 6, when Vader finds out that Luke's his son, he goes on this journey with Sabe, and they end up going to Exegol or whatever, and Vader sees all of these Star Destroyers underneath, and he sees the clones of Snoke. I mean, like the Emperor's clones and everything, and then that's it. So
just doesn't say anything in the future. He's just like, "Hey, yo, yeah. Luke, by the way." right. Just wanted to let you know, but
yeah. So they were just trying to build up like another, like, of trying to fill in some plot holes, but they made a big plot hole by making that comic, and I was like, so please do not do that. We don't need a comic book story of Kino getting, processed and getting his blood mixed with the Emperor's to become like some weird clone. Like, we don't need that. Let Kino be Kino. Like I love that character. Andy Serkis did a phenomenal job. I don't want anything, that's a Snoke origin story. We don't need that. But yeah. Anyways, continue.
Next scene, we go back as we open on B2 emo in the same way as like Hal to like it looks like a Hal like reference, like from 2001. Yeah, and basically Andor's mom has died. So which was alluded to in the last episode that it was going to happen pretty soon. And you get to see him being quite emotional in this scene. So I thought it was pretty sad, but pretty adorable scene at the same time. More droid rights. Let's go. Let's get them.
Something else as well is throughout the show, we've learned more about the planets, like of the different planets' customs. Because in this one, we learned that the people of Ferrix, when they die, they end up being like kind of cremated, but they get put into a wall. So if you think about it, there's a lot of buildings there that are made from some people of the past that have lived there. And this is not the only time that we've learned more about a planet's culture, because we also learned about it in the heist episodes. Of where the species like goes to the valley, and every 3 years, and then they see the stars and everything. So it's really cool to learn more about the different planets in the galaxy and their cultures, and I want to see that more in Star Wars, because we've been to so many planets, but we don't learn so much about their culture. So I'm really excited to see more.
It's even like the same with just getting to see more of Coruscant. It's something that's already established, but we're getting to see more of it. Just seeing the parts that aren't shown all the times in the movies and whatnot. Just being able to see how the rest of the galaxy operates is it's quite special.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of Andor's as a series strength is building the entire world with world building. Definitely, I think that's and I mean for people like us, I think it's a giant plus and another reason to love this series. From here, we hear that Marva's died. So Marva's died, and I think the next scene that we get is, I think what we're really alluding to here is how much stuff, and I think that this season at least is going to end on this whole like funeral.
Yes.
So they've been building it up for a while. We have literally everyone from all over converging on this planet. Is it Ferrix? Yep. Ferrix. Okay, cool. I mean, and then the next scene that we have is cutting back to our prisoner escapees, and they are trying to get away, and they find a ship in the distance, or a little fishing stuff going on. So they go down there. So what did you guys think of the scene where they end up getting captured?
I love it. It's very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It is.
Yes.
Definitely. That sort of feeling. That felt like I was watching that again. I love the voice work as well.
Everything's practical. Love it.
And something about that ship is a callback to Force Awakens, because that is a quad jumper. We haven't seen one since Force Awakens. Because we saw it in Force Awakens, and then the second time that we saw a quad jumper was in season 1 of The Mandalorian, when they go to Navarro. So seeing I've noticed something in Andor a lot, which is a lot of callbacks to the sequels, especially Force Awakens. So I think they're trying to tie in like the different elements of the sequels into these newer projects that take place back like before the events, because they want it to be a whole universal thing. Because because one of Force Awakens came out, it's like in that movie there were so many new alien species that we've never seen before, and it's like, it's just 30 years later. Why on earth haven't we seen these, species and the original Star Wars movies? Like, why on earth are we seeing them like just now in this one? So now that we have, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Bad Batch and Andor and all these new shows, they're slowly introducing all those sequel creatures and different species into the originals. I mean, and to the shows that are taking place during the original trilogy.
So what would you think that is? Because I can definitely say that these creatures are like Andor's strength here. I feel is like when you have all these practical effects and all these creatures, I'm like completely fine with it. I love it. This is hilarious. It's fun. But as soon as you go like back to the sequels, like you go like Can't Bite, like you're like, I could not care about any of these characters.
No.
I don't like the character design. I don't like, but it's still all practical effects. It's still all like creatures in this. I'm trying to figure out and pinpoint what the main reason is where I would be like, I don't like that, and I don't like that side of world building, whereas I do like this, and this is fun and interesting and true Star Wars.
I feel like it's the plots that occur around these new things that
is
what will draw you in or turn you away. Like, with Canterbite, I'm not a big fan of that whole section of the movie, but like, it's beautiful and all the aliens there are great, but I don't really care about what's going on because I don't really care about what Finn and Rose are up to. But in Andor, it's like I'm so engaged in the world and with what the characters are doing that whenever they bring in these new things, it's like, I want to know more.
Yeah, no, I think I think one big thing that I admire about the series is that it is mainly practical effects, and they didn't really rely on the volume like the other Disney Plus shows have. And even on the scenes of where they're filming Coruscant, that's not in the volume. Like that is like a full out set. And then like the skyline and everything is a screen in the background. It's not the volume, but it's a screen. It's not like a blue screen like back in the sequels, but it's really cool how they kind of went back like to the old days, which I'm referring to the old days to kind of like the
matte painting.
Yeah, to like the prequel era and the original. So
yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Physical. So your opinion,
yeah.
Now that you've seen almost all of Andor and almost all, I mean, I know you've seen all of Mandalorian. What do you feel is better cinematic technique? Do you like stagecraft being the primary use, or would you rather have like physical sets? I don't know if this comes down to the series, because I feel like the Mandalorian, even though that we have the whole like Chrome Beskar issue that stagecraft was born out of, I would still love to see more physical sets to elevate the Mandalorian higher to higher like lengths, in my opinion.
Okay.
No more sand, please.
Okay, so my biggest thing is Star Wars was built on sets, like practical, sets, practical effects, and as great as the volume is, I think the main reason why that they built the volume was like, it was, a lot easier than building a whole set and everything. But when the actors are walking around, those are genuine like reactions, like of when they're walking around in the areas and the different environments and everything. And yes, it's a lot easier to film those scenes. But if you look back on, from the original trilogy of filming, those scenes on the Death Star, on Hoth and all that stuff, you could tell that those, even though they were alien planets and stuff, you could still tell it was a real environment. And then when you look at the prequels, when they used, almost blue screens, especially for the entire thing of Attack of the Clones, like the whole movie was nothing but blue screens everywhere. You could kind of tell the difference of how the actors were reacting to things, because they couldn't really see it. Mm-hmm. And then you go to stagecraft where it's there, but it's not there. And the fact that I think Andor worked so well was because they didn't really use CGI characters, and they didn't use any blue screens or anything where like the actual
I mean, for me, genuinely,
yeah.
I genuinely feel that stagecraft wouldn't play to Andor's strengths as a series.
I feel like it depends on what the scene calls for, because in something like The Mandalorian, where a lot of the time they'll be, on quite a vast open space, stagecraft is pretty great. But
yeah.
But on Coruscant, what's the real use of it? It's you need to have a set there. You need to have something tangible there, because it's such a dense environment, and I feel like it just depends on what the scene calls for.
Right. Now here's a question. Do we think that the skeleton crew will use a lot of stagecraft, or do you think it's going to be actual sets? Because if not, then where's their budget going?
I think it is sets, most definitely, but I do think it's built sets.
Yeah,
I think you're going to get a lot more interaction with physical things happening on screen and not having CGI as much as possible. That's where I think it's going, because if not, I don't know where all the expense would be heading.
Right.
I mean, we still got so much more information to learn about that. I mean, the biggest one I think we come back to the most is just how much money they're putting into that show.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed it's good.
Like, I mean, I think that Tony Gilroy did such a great job. Like with it, I will say, which Josh already knows is, but the first 3 episodes, I was skeptical because it was very slow, and I'm glad that they released the first 3 episodes at once. And now the rest of the world that doesn't have Disney Plus has the opportunity to watch the first 2 episodes of Andor, because it's going to be on ABC, Hulu, and then somewhere else, but it will it's not going to be on Disney Plus, and it will be on ABC for free for anyone who wants to watch it. And I think they wanted to do that because they want to draw more people in, because not everyone's open up to the idea of getting Disney Plus just for one show. So but this show is so well written, and after those first 3 episodes, like I was hooked. So I'm really excited for season 2, because the action is going to be up there more, and the stakes are going to be higher, because we all know it leads into the events of Rogue One. So but yeah.
Our next scene ends up being the ISB agent, of course. More build up to the end game of our next episode for the season finale. I like seeing her craft a plan. Basically, she's probably the only one that isn't sticking to as many rules as the Empire likes to follow, and it's interesting seeing how her brain works comparatively to the other ISB agents within the Empire. So, what you guys think of that cute little scene of her being like, you know what? Give them their clearance to have their funeral. We're gonna catch Andor here.
Yeah.
I
don't know. She's just
I think she's realized that everyone else is so robotic in the Empire, and she had to be able to break away from her robotic nature to be able to be to rise above the Empire, which is a very fun thing. And I wonder if she'll end up realizing how it's such a rare thing to find, because everyone is just so in fear all the time, doing basically only being yes men all the time. And she's the only one who's decided to be like, you know what, I'm gonna take charge and do what I want to do.
I could also see that backfiring on her pretty badly, because she's thinking outside the box, which is an ISB agent's job, but she's doing it too much, which then the Empire could start to see as a liability. So it could end up backfiring on her, and I don't know, in season 2 you could maybe see an unlikely alliance even.
I think the biggest thing for me that I think is going to happen, which we've been seeing a lot in different projects about people in the Empire that are near the end of where they're going to lose is that they realize that they're losing, but they're too prideful to leave the Empire, because that's what happened with Iden Versio's dad in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Like, he knew he was like, there was no way that the Empire was going to come on top, but he was so prideful, and he said it in a way to Iden where he's like, oh, I like had my chance. Go and live your life. I'm going down with the Empire. I don't deserve to live. I could see her doing that. But at the same time, I could see her also turning as well, because I think she's so caught up. And I think her and Cyril.
I would be scared that we would get another Battlefront 2 campaign thing.
Yeah,
I really don't
see,
want it to be too close to that.
I can't see her fully converting, though. Like I feel like it'll be like a very uneasy alliance, and once it's done, she'd go straight back. I don't feel like not necessarily straight back, but
she's someone who I would think would lose everything to be able to change.
Yes.
She would have to lose absolutely everything, and that would be the turning point, and be like, well, my talents are needed elsewhere. Goodbye.
I think and I could just see her doing exactly what Governor Price did at the end of Rebels. She also was like, oh yeah, we're losing, but you know what? Screw you. I'm going down with the Empire. And then the whole base blows up and everything. So it's just, just in your opinion, what do you want to happen like to her? Because we don't see her during the events of any of the original trilogy. And we don't see her after the events of the original trilogy, like in the Mandalorian timeline. And we don't see her in Rogue One. So at some point she dies, or she goes off she goes somewhere. But I don't think that she's going to make it. But how do you think it's going to happen? Do you think she's going to leave the Empire, or do you think she will go down with the Empire?
I don't know. I think that we would like her to, but I feel like it's such a cutthroat world, and how much she's moved up, I don't think she would be willing to let it go lightly, and she would rather die than let her position go in the way. So I genuinely feel like it would be kind of like a whole Captain Phasma incident where I can't remember if that was a deleted scene, but the one where they're like talking. Yeah, it was a deleted scene about how Finn was like, "You want to let me know like who took down the shields for Starkiller Base?" Then like all the troopers are like, "Yeah, exactly." I feel like it would be something like that.
I could see them doing something leading her. So how we have after the original trilogy, we have Ahsoka out there looking for Ezra. We could have her out there looking for Thrawn after all this is said and done, because I feel like her loyalties will stay with the Empire even after it's gone. Mm-hmm. I can see her going down with it, but I could also see her maybe looking for Thrawn after the original trilogy, sort of mirroring Ahsoka's search.
That would be very interesting to see her show. I mean, because could you imagine watching the Ahsoka show and then all of a sudden, like, we like find her with Thrawn? That would throw so many people off. But I think that would be really cool for her character. Yeah.
So our next scene ends up being the back to the like alien pirates we got. So they end up explaining how much it's affecting their fishing is the giant prison. So that was pretty funny to see. And then it's like another effect on basically everyone's lives. And once they realize, hey, look, you're not actually with the Empire, you're just prisoners. All right, we'll let you go. And then Andor explains where he wants to go, and then they're like, yeah, we'll take you, no problem. I thought that was pretty funny.
Those
guys were also like terrifying.
Yeah.
And yeah, like geez, like I also thought at first I thought they were the same species as Unkur Plot from Force Awakens.
Yep.
Right. But then I look closer, and they don't really look. I mean, they look similar, but I don't think they're the same species. But I think they look great, and it's because of they're not CGI. Like it's confirmed that that's an actual suit. There are people in those actual suits.
Yeah.
It's no, like green morph suits or anything with dots on it. Like it's an actual suit. Like it looks awesome. So I love, again, going back to where we were talking about practical effects. I love that they did that for this show. And even when you see droids and everything in the background, most of them are not CGI. Like it's practical effects. So it's so cool that they're bringing that element back into Star Wars, and it's not just on the volume and stagecraft and just in the background, like on a screen. Like it's actually there. So I think that's the great thing about having such a big area for a set, because you could do all that stuff. But yeah.
And then our next scene is back in the collector's room with all the different artifacts again. Is it Mon Mothma's cousin?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So she comes in. She's like demanding to know where he is. And his assistant is completely just like, you know what? We're just going to talk about business. Business is what we talk about here. We don't get anything too detailed here. And she's pretty adamant on what's happening. But she feels like she's got information towards again where he's going to be. So Andor's going to be. So we're getting closer and closer to seeing everyone converge on one place.
Yeah.
And then our next scene is back on Ferrix again. Another chat with B2 Emo again. More sad stuff because he doesn't know what he's going to be doing for now. What do you guys think of these two different scenes flopping back and forth? I think it is more pushing towards our final episode of everyone meeting together.
Yeah. I really like how everyone's been trying to find Cassian this whole time, but for the majority of it, he's been locked away, and not even the Empire knows. It's just everyone's going, he'll be coming, but he doesn't even know about it yet. He doesn't know about his mother's passing yet, but everyone else has beaten him to the punch there. Like everybody else knows, and
Oh yeah, and then we get more of you get the result of the torture on the one girl.
Yes. How do we feel about that? Like, do we think that she'll break, or do you think that she will stay loyal?
I'm not sure just yet.
I'm leaning towards she's going to stay loyal. She's still hesitating enough that I'm like, I think that she'll stay loyal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm because I feel like she's lost so much at this point that I'm like, we could get a whole like I don't care anymore kind of thing. Whereas she's been pretty selfless in what she's been doing, helping him out. I feel like Cassian is still at that one point where he hasn't changed over and not been selfless yet to be a part of the beginning of the Rebel Alliance. So I feel like it would be a fun flip flop of her completely being self-preserving and completely flipping over and being like, I will turn you in now to end all of this.
Yeah, just to get the Empire out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me cut back to Mon Mothma and her cousin, and we get to see Mon Mothma's child going through Shrangilla customs.
Yeah.
Looking a little culty. Looking, yeah.
I mean, hey, look, more world building, right? It's just more world building.
Yeah, it actually is. Which is funny because now we can say fun things about the Halcyon.
Well, yeah. I mean,
like the Halcyon is 250 years old. What? How old is it right now?
275 years old.
275, and now we can just be like, yeah, no, it hasn't changed in 275 years. That's just how it is. It's how it's going to be for another 275 years. We got old Shrangillan customs. You know how it is.
Because
nothing but arranged marriages here. The old ways keep us right, guys. They keep us binded together.
Okay. Well,
Guess you're
like
getting
no,
a bit
like
sus
like
with what the ages are, eh?
because like I never thought we would dive into this topic in Star Wars because this show has definitely showed you themes that we can relate to and that we know from our world and I think it's very interesting that we're diving into it. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's very interesting that they are talking about like arranged marriages and everything because that's the last thing that I thought would come into Star Wars. But then again, I did watch the holiday special last night and I saw a lot of things in it. Yeah, so it's just like, you know what? It's Star Wars. Anything can
goes.
happen.
Anything goes. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're leading to more towards that whole kind of you know what? Yeah, I do need that money. You guys can meet. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Because we find out that that she actually that the Empire was cracking down and was getting kind of suspicious of her activities, and we find out that she lost a lot of money. So she's feeling like
the real villain of the story.
so she's feeling like she doesn't have a choice, and and I think her cousin's going to try and find a way where that doesn't have to happen. But again, it's interesting because we know that Mothma's family isn't really in the picture in Rebels or in the original trilogy.
In my opinion, do you think like a gut punch would be like she goes out of her way, sacrifices like I don't know, actually some people, something gigantic to be able to make sure that she gets the money, and I feel like it'll be like a Saw Gerrera kind of like operation where she's like fully into it just so that her kid doesn't have to get into this arranged marriage. She comes back and she's hanging out with the son. Like, yes. I think that would be a cool reveal.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
I think something as well is maybe Mon Mothma doesn't like Saw Gerrera that much because maybe she does something that like super bad on the lines of what Saw does, and she hates that. And then every time that Saw pops up, he reminds her of the action or the thing that of that choice that she made, and that's why she doesn't want Saw around. But she keeps saying other things, but in reality, it is because of choice that she makes, which we don't know exactly what she's going to do. We don't know if her cousin is going to step in and save the day, or if there's a divorce that's going to happen. Like we don't know. And also, do you think that a divorce is in the, could that happen? Like,
it would be interesting to see on screen.
Yeah. Because
Star Wars divorce. Yeah.
Like, no, it's a very interesting thing because if it's an arranged marriage, can they get a divorce? What are the laws against that? Like, I'm very curious,
especially on Coruscant. With it being a central.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I think our from our next scene we get into back to was his name Cyril, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so his obsession he keeps going further. He sees his old partner, his old sergeant, and I believe is he on a mining planet? Something interesting. Not sure what he's doing, but he learns about how
noisy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's his everything's like creaking out. They're having a whole argument about like I'm not being able to hear you, but he gets the information, a little bit of information about where Cassian is.
He keeps repeating where he is as well.
It's interesting seeing all these stages of like people that are going just for this one person. You're seeing someone who's completely lost everything, someone who has everything to gain by catching him, people that want him dead, and then in the future of this, we see people that need him alive. So very interesting. I like where it's going so far. What do you guys think of the scene?
I thought that that his mom, like, after the phone call where she was just like, oh, I thought it was something important. Oh, like awesome. I can relax now. I felt that in my gut because I just remember like being a kid and just kind of to me something would be a big deal, and then like my parents would think it would be a big deal, but then when it was revealed, then they would be like, oh, it's nothing. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that, things are going great. But yeah, no. So I just thought I thought that was funny. But apparently you guys didn't because you guys aren't laughing, but it's fine. It's whatever.
No. I mean, it's definitely relatable.
Yeah.
But it's definitely really cool for me to see all this, the different stages of how one person has been affecting not only all the people that he knows or has indirectly come in contact with, but now you're affecting the entire galaxy. It's all been this one person. I don't think he's realized it just yet. He's getting there to where he has to understand that you have to be selfless for it, which is very interesting. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
And then we get into our next scene past that. We are at Space Miami. Cassian gets inside, taking all the money. And he finds his like old case and everything. Money's still there, blaster's there.
And the species that's laying in bed is the same.
It's Oga.
Yes, but also it is the same species from Rogue One. It is the cellmate that Jyn Erso had. So right, it's like, could that be the same, alien?
We get a comic
Who
for that one too.
Yeah. No.
Tie-in. But yeah, no. So I think it's interesting that like the cleaning people just didn't, happen to look up there and see a box up there for months. But it's like, okay. Because to me, that wasn't really well hidden. Like, I feel like if you were standing in the room from a different angle, you couldn't miss it. So I don't know.
I mean, if you leave something somewhere long enough undisturbed, it just sort of ends up blending into the environment, especially if you're there enough, just sort of hiding in plain sight, I suppose.
Fair enough.
That's what I'll break it down to.
Then we cut to Luthen jumping up to Sagra's little hideaway base. He meets with two tubes. Gets patted down, looking at all of this stuff. It's funny seeing how much of Sagra's paranoia is absolutely going on, and how much it actually affects his own men as well.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the beginning of the scene? You good? Glad that we're back focused on Saw for a little bit, seeing more of him.
I am, but I'm also saddened because I don't think we're gonna see him in the last episode. I mean, if we do, I'll be very excited. But the scenes that we see in this episode are the last of the footage that we've seen in the trailers and everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it would be great to see Saw in the last episode. I really hope we do, but we'll have to wait and see.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't, just because he said he's taking he's going to take a back seat to everything that's going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him again.
Yeah,
but very intense, very intense. I loved it.
And to me that also foreshadowed of why we see him so paranoid in Rogue One. He was kind of paranoid in Rebels as well, but he was more paranoid in Rogue One. So I'm hoping to see more of him in the future. I think we will in season 2, but it's just me. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, he still has to get a little bit more battle damaged by then. So.
Oh yeah.
He needs his cane.
Yes, and some a breathing apparatus.
Where in a suspicious way, it sounds like Darth Vader breathing every time that he takes some oxygen.
He is more machine now than man.
Yes, he is.
I was about to say that. God damn it.
So what do you think of their whole conversation between Luthen and Saw?
Good.
About
I
the plan
really liked how he tricked his tubes into coming up to him.
Yeah,
so but pay attention, man.
I think that's one big thing I like about Luthen is that he really can convince anyone, like anything, because Saw was so like quick to be like, are you kidding me? Really? You? Like, come on. And
he's just super paranoid, which is it's hilarious how much Luthen's able to read a room. I mean, it's probably just, you've been in like you're selling stuff to people that you need to know how to sell stuff to. He's been around, like he's been basically Coruscant like for years, I would assume at this point. Yeah. And he knows how to play the game. And it's really cool seeing how it really honed in and focused in all of his scenes.
I really enjoyed his character. I really hope we get some type of backstory. I could see him having some type of cameo in the Bad Batch season 2, because that's happened directly after the events of Revenge of the Sith. So I'm really hoping that we get some more backstory on Luthen, because he's such a great character and he's very mysterious. We don't know exactly what he lost or what drove him to be the way he is in the show. So I really would love more backstory. But the way that he is in the show and the way that he can manipulate different situations and people is very, very cool. And very interesting to me, because we haven't had a character like that in Star Wars in a while. So
he's definitely a character that I think out of all the characters and all the new characters that we have, we would love to know his backstory.
Yes.
I think I'd like to know the inciting incident for him, what really devoted him to the cause. I don't want to know too much else about him because I do enjoy the mystery. But I feel like just being able to see what it was that pushed him over the edge, that made him so fully devote himself to this, to essentially become the rebellion. It's like, I want to see what pushes a man to that point.
Yeah, no, I get that. I feel the same way about Max Rebo. Like, I feel like if I know too much, then it's just like it will drive away that of all those scenes that we see in Return of the Jedi. Like, I just don't think it would be the same. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I love how Josh was just like, all right, let's move on. But yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, for our next scene, we get Cyril running in, stealing his mom's money so that he can go and
so that actually looked like that didn't look like her stuff. That looked like his box that he's been talking about throughout the entire show of where he's like, you went into my box, like, yeah. So
I thought it was because it's his mom's jewelry, because she's been wearing like all of that the entire time.
I thought it was his stuff as well, because he was waiting for her to leave as well.
Yeah, because it's implied.
Yeah, that's true. All right, fair enough.
Yes, everyone wanted to see what was in the box, but I completely agree.
I know. I was like, I just wanted to see what was in the box. What's in the box? Yeah.
Do we know what Luthen's ship is now at the moment? Do we know what it's called? Do we know what Luthen's ship is called right now? Because the next scene includes him talking to his assistant through his ship.
I really, really like his ship. Like, his ship was just, it's so cool.
It's related to the Falcon, but I want to know in what way or what number.
I don't think we know.
It reminds me of the ship for the
Force Unleashed.
No. Yes, but also from the Sith characters use in the Old Republic, the MMO. It reminds me of that with how it's laid out, and to an extent, the exterior of it.
I mean, it's possible because Luthen does collect. Like, he He has a lot of artifacts from across the galaxy. That would be really cool. It does remind me of the Eclipse from Force Unleashed, but something else as well from the Force Unleashed. The droid that is talking to him is David Collins, who has played different characters throughout Star Wars, small roles. He also
Was he Proxy?
yes, he also was Proxy from Force Unleashed. So I think that's kind of like a cool callback because we got the voice of Proxy. We also got the mask of Starkiller. So it's like, different,
So next thing you know, Juno will be piloting his ship.
that would honestly be crazy if out of nowhere they introduced
It would be crazy.
a officer, that was, oh, hi, this is Juno. It's like, wait, what? But yeah, so no, cool.
So our next scene, it is still him in the ship. He's having his little suspicious conversation where it's all like in play, and he's keeping it under radar because he doesn't know who could be listening. But he is implying the worth of Cassian. There's no longer a hit on him. He needs him alive. Well, I think that this might be the inciting incident that gets him killed. You're going to have him save Cassian, and I feel like Cassian's finally going to start being selfless.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like sort of the mentor passing over kind of thing. It's poetry. I genuinely feel like that's where we're getting to with
rhymes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then our next scene is this giant satellite dish. Do we know what this one is called?
So we don't know what the ship is called in the show, but this was actual ship. Yes, exactly. This is concept art. This ship is based off of concept art that the late Colin Cantwell came up with when they were making A New Hope.
It's an Arista cruiser, Cantwell class, right? I made a note.
Whoa!
Yeah. Wow,
he is so ready. He's got his notes.
Yeah, I got my notes. No, the droid mentioned about how it's a Cantwell class.
Interesting.
There you go. That is an awesome callback because Colin Cantwell just passed away earlier this year, and him and Ralph McQuarrie came up with a lot of the designs for the original Star Wars. So the fact that they're paying homage to him by having his ship from the concept art actually be made into live action and come to life is super, super cool to me. I actually had the honor of meeting him a couple of years back for a event for the 501st, and you just saw the passion, for Star Wars, like just kind of ooze off of him because he was a big Star Wars fan too. So it's so cool to see that that is finally in Star Wars in live action. I think that's awesome. But the ship is very interesting, as you said. It's got satellite dishes like everywhere, and then we see the ship that Luthen's in, and he just like that shit just does a whole 360 because it's like it's got all these weapons that we never really thought it would have. But anyways, Josh, go ahead.
And then we just basically get a full on another like showing of how much the Empire is cracking down. Even like the other ISB agents, like, oh no, it clears out. Like we don't have to worry about him. Should we let him go? And the officer's like, nope. He's gonna be boarded. We're gonna put on this whole tractor beam. He's gonna get inside, and we're gonna interrogate him. I want to know more about why he's here, which is pretty interesting because you're seeing much more of this fear change. All the higher ups are starting to become super worried. It's cool seeing all of it trickle down. Then as you see them with the tractor beam, he opens up a whole bunch of spike needles to fly back into the tractor beam, which I thought was very, very cool. Very cool. What do you guys think of that scene?
I would like to know what type of metal that Luthen was using, because that thing like just cut through that dish. Like that thing was gone within seconds.
Do you think this is an old version? Do you think this is like an old version of a tractor beam before they really got their hands on fixing or knowing what they could do with it? Because I feel like there wasn't. I feel like they're implying that the Empire was pretty serious about everything, but only to a T until what happened with Cass with the whole heist. That is the turning point where they were like, tractor beam everything. Like, we got to interrogate everyone, all this kind of stuff. We saw a lot of it when it hit like Bad Batch side with everyone's like codes. And once that had all completely, the Empire had completely taken over, I feel like, as they had been saying, it's like they're so full of themselves. They're like so fat on it and stuff. Yeah, I feel like that was really, fat and satisfied. I feel like, now you're seeing the repercussions of that. Everyone's like, we're really going to tractor beam. Like, yes, this is the new plan now. Let's go make all of our ships like this. Another thing I was thinking about was how we know that the Death Star was behind schedule. So it was interesting seeing how in the prison, they're like, nope, we're going to double down. We got to get this Death Star out as fast as possible. This prison break happens. We do know that, like, it's only humans there, which was interesting to me because we know that, like, I can't remember if it's Ugnaughts that helped build it or Ugnaughts that only helped to repair on the inside of the Death Star. But we know that they ended up doing something on the Death Star that was very important.
Yeah.
If this show was made by Dave Filoni, we know that Quail from The Mandalorian would have made a cameo. Yeah, and it would have been like, oh, this is how he served, and then, but yeah. So no, I something else that I keep forgetting is that wasn't the only prison that was on there. Like, do you remember in the lake how there were like maybe like 4 or 5
splitting everyone up? Yeah.
So that was just one prison that like people broke out of. The other facilities are still going. So I'm really curious if they're just gonna keep the operation going or if they're gonna move the operation, because they didn't really talk about the prison break at all. Like there was no people in the Empire that really talked about that, about the prison break at all in this episode, and I was waiting for that, and they didn't. So I'm really curious if they're really like, all right, we like need to keep this under wraps. Like we can't talk about it because as soon as we talk about it, then people will get more suspicious, and we don't want that. So I was really, shocked, but at the same time, not really. But I'm really curious of how they're going to deal with that going forward. Because you're right, they were working on things for the Death Star. We don't know exactly what they were working on, but we know that it takes about 20 years to build the Death Star. So I'm really curious of what stage that the actual space station is in at this point. Are we at the halfway point? Are we not even halfway? Are we, because it's, so.
And then continuing the scene, we get really cool dogfight battle scene where we get like a TIE bomber, 3 TIE fighters, and they get absolutely destroyed. Luthen pulls out this whole laser spin tactic. It's a good trick. It was interesting. I love learning about all these, like this new technology, seeing it all on screen is really, really cool. One of the best like scenes that I've seen for Star Wars in a long time, which is actually really funny that this show has shown some of the really amazing, like anything to do with dogfights. That kind of stuff has been really, really cool.
Yeah.
I never would have thought it would have been Andor though. Out of all things.
I mean, the show's been pulling out surprises left, right, and center though. So I had no idea what to expect going into it, and just being able to get things like that dogfights is just just never would have expected it.
I think they're gonna up the ante for dogfights though, in season 3 of Mando, because of the trailer that we got of where he is in the asteroid field and like he's getting chased. I think that will definitely be
now.
What?
Now that he's got
Yeah,
a
I know.
starfighter. He's got a proper dogfighting starfighter now. He absolutely can. Whereas with the Razor Crest, it was a bit more.
But this scene was amazing, and I would have loved to see this in the theater. I think that's probably like the one regret that I have, is that this didn't make it to the big screen, because that was like, of the whole thing with the stars like coming on through in episode 6 of the show was incredible, and I just wish that we got that on the big screen. It was cool, like, of seeing it on my TV, but I was like, man, if like I saw this in IMAX, oh shoot. But yeah.
Oh, just imagine the audience as well. Everyone.
Oh my gosh,
screaming.
yeah.
I was cheering like that whole time.
Yeah.
And then our next scene, we got Cassian calling an old buddy, friend, someone that he's taken stuff from before. Uses a little payphone to call his friend and be like, "Hey, look, I'm coming back. My mom's gonna be so proud of me and everything." And then he's just like,
"No names.
No, she's dead." And then he's like, "Oh, okay." So this is the pivotal scene where he ends up realizing, has a whole shocking feeling that there's no going back to my old life. So what do you think of that scene? Of you see from the Miami payphone, and where both of them are kind of deciding, like, hey, like what do you think we should do next? And
well, I really like that they are using a character that we see in Rogue One, and we only see him in the scene of the Scarif scenes in Rogue One, and then that one time when they're all getting ready to leave in Yavin. So I like how that's how they met. And now when we go back and rewatch Rogue One, it's gonna be, I mean, his like,
hey, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I know that guy's story. That's good. I can stop that. I can finally stop the entire movie, pause it, and explain to my wife that one character for like that pops up for 2.5 seconds.
It's like the Captain Rex thing in Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yes. Was that one?
You're like, oh, that's canon.
There he is.
Rex.
That's the
guy. But yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's how the episode really ends, is him talking and being like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna go off. People have to understand and completely know about what's actually going on with these prisons. I have to go tell people we have to split up." And Cassian's like, "Well, here's a blaster. Here's no money. Good luck. You go do whatever you want. I'm gonna go live out my life with all my money. I don't care. I'm gonna take this money and I'm gonna go to my mom's funeral," which is what we're gonna get next episode. Hopefully, no giant cliffhanger would be nice, but we'll see. And it ends with Cass looking over the water. So, what did you guys think of the episode?
Well, I thought him looking at the water, and the way that the sun was kind of reflecting off the water of just that sunset or sunrise or whatever. That that's definitely foreshadowing him getting blown up in Rogue One. Because that honestly was the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, at the end of Rogue One, you die.
This is the beginning, and then you also get to have it at the end as well. That's cool. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And then I believe what was the next thing for Disney Plus? I believe it was Zen Grogu.
Yes.
Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies. A little short.
So you did talk about this on Sunday, right?
Sunday's podcast. Yes, I did.
Yep.
I think my biggest feelings towards it was it has me extremely hopeful for the future, because this is, I would say, the most worldwide well-known animation studio from Japan.
Yes.
My biggest opinion on this short is, hey, look what we could do with Visions in the future. I think that this is broadening, and I feel like Grogu, as much as this kind of annoys me, it's basically a double-edged sword. Is that I think even Ben, you were talking about with your family, it's like, hey, I don't know who Baby Yoda is, but I know who Baby Yoda is. I don't really care about Star Wars, but this character, I like this character, and that's the bridge that I think Baby Yoda has really done for like everyone. Yep. And if that like allows new opportunities for animation, games, I'm all for that kind of thing. I just feel like it doesn't speak. We have to think in towards the future as Star Wars fans. It's kind of like, hey, if you want more of this, you want more of this good stuff, then we have to get as many people on board as possible.
Yeah,
I don't want
the dust bunnies on there as well, because that's
that's
Totoro, right? So those dust bunnies are actually from a existing Ghibli property. So it's not only are they merging the two by having the studio do it, you're actually bringing in part of Ghibli's IP as well, which is really just bridging, like you were saying, bridging it completely.
Yeah, whereas I would say, I think you can even confirm this, Ben, is that the Western world, as in America-wise, Star Wars is gigantic. However, the rest of the world, I feel like, hasn't had that moment where they're like, yo, that's really what I want to be all about. It's interesting seeing all this new Japanese animation, because it's probably one of the last countries, in my opinion, even though how much George Lucas, like Seven Samurai, all this kind of stuff, all this old Japanese films that he took inspiration from to make his original trilogy. It's interesting that you don't really see much of them contributing towards more of Star Wars until Visions came around. So this little short has me absolutely ecstatic for the future of what Star Wars can do around the world. I would love to see different directors from around the world take their own take in what they could bring to Star Wars.
And that's actually something funny, because Lucasfilm actually recently met with the studio that made the 9th Jedi short in Visions. And I'm very curious if they're going to maybe base a show off of that, where it's Legends, or maybe they have some type of High Republic story. Because I think a High Republic show that's actual anime would do very, very well. And
isn't the 9th Jedi set really far in the future though? Because that's sort of just like, isn't the 9th Jedi set quite far in the future as far as the timeline goes?
Are you talking about the 9th Jedi of what they wanted, or the 9th episode that they wanted to push forward?
The 9th Jedi, which I don't know if it takes, because it wasn't very clear of where in the timeline it took place, because it could have took place, years before the events of the original trilogy, prequels and sequels and all this stuff, or you're right, it could have happened like long after. But I'm very hopeful, because I think Visions, that show was to maybe show us a couple of plots of different ideas that they had. I mean, there's some in there that were clearly just for fun, but there were other episodes that were like, if this was a whole show, would people watch this? And there were a handful in there that I would definitely sit down and be like, all right, what happens next? Because I didn't feel like that for every episode in Visions, but there were 3 on the top of my head that I was like, this is really good. It was the first one, Ronan, the 9th Jedi, and then the one where it's got David Harbour and Jordan Fisher. It's like the Master and Apprentice. It takes place during the High Republic. Yeah, that. So
interested in seeing what the underlying connection is to having the Ninth Jedi. I think it might be because the same director who directed that one is the same one who directed Akira. And we know that Taika wanted to do his adaptation of Akira, and it was going to be produced under Fox, I believe, or some subsidiary that is owned by Disney. So I wonder if they were already in talks back and forth, and they're like, "Hey, like, let's do something for Visions," and then from there they're like, "Hey, like, let's do something else." Like that was like one of the highest rated episodes of Visions. So I think that's probably our underlying connection right now. But to be honest, for me, I would love to see action-oriented Studio Ghibli full-on animation or series to a Star Wars Vision episode. I think that would be very impressive for me. They have done action before, and all of their hand-drawn stuff has been really extreme, and always makes me really happy and giddy when I go and see it. It's the presence there is unmatched, in my opinion, for hand-drawn animation.
Yeah. And I mean, because of my wife loves all of the movies that were made by them, so when like she heard that, like she was just geeking out the entire day. So yeah, so I'm very excited to see the future of that.
I mean, for you, I know that you're not a big anime fan. Is there any genre that you think you would like to see brought to the Star Wars media? So we have like Japanese animation, where I would say like is a big change for Star Wars, especially. Is there any kind of? I would love to see a film noir detective story in the Star Wars universe. I think that would be really cool.
I'm with you on that. But we've gotten very similar stories like that in the Clone Wars, and then we also definitely got that in Attack of the Clones, of where Obi-Wan was a detective, and then like he was trying to kind of figure everything out. But now, because of the Clone Wars, like we understand the plot and like and the story behind the clones and how they were made and everything. But I think of some type of an investigation, like a show revolving around that would be cool. I think that actually might happen in the show Acolyte.
Yeah.
So what's your views on what you've read about Acolyte so far?
It's a old master reuniting with their apprentice, and they are going in and they are investigating some dark, mysterious claims that have been happening throughout the galaxy. So they go to it, and something bad happens, something bad occurs, and I think it will definitely show us more about the Jedi, but I'm more excited because it's going to show us more about where the Sith have been and maybe what they've been planning. I'm expecting a lot of lightsaber fights. At least I'm hoping for a lot of lightsaber fights. Like I want like a real Jedi, force-driven show that will, that will show us, the way that the High Republic transitions into what we see in the prequels. That's my main goal. That's my main pipe dream for the show. So I'm hoping that we get that. So because we just have seen
how they go from Jedi to Senate jockeys, pretty much.
Right. Do we know exactly when it's taking place just yet?
A lot of people, it's all speculation at the moment, because I was trying to pinpoint it a little bit. But people are saying anywhere from 100 to even like 10 years before the Phantom Menace. But that's the thing as well. Coming out of the High Republic, it can be. It's such a wide amount of time that it could be.
Yeah.
I think a big thing for me is that you have like, hey, like let's have. Dave Filoni has become just like his own style if he directed this, we know what we would end up seeing. With this, yeah, exactly. Like you'd be like, wow, bang, we got Plagueis, we got all this stuff. I really hope for something new here that isn't well known, or we get the deeper lore that connects to the goings on in the future of Star Wars. That's what I'm really excited for. Did you see?
Huh?
Did you?
If it was a bit closer to Phantom Menace, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of Tenebrous. Sorry, Josh.
Did you see anything while you were at Celebration? Colin?
For Acolyte?
For any other projects besides besides Ahsoka and Mandalorian.
So they talked about Skeleton Crew, and we know that Jude Law will play a big part in it, and then they didn't tell us the budget of it until after. So that brings me very high hopes for the show, and we know the vibe is going to be around Stranger Things. It's stuff that we talked about in the past, but there's, again, leading into that, there's so much Star Wars happening, guys, and Star Wars is taking a break after next week until January 4th because of it's the holidays, and they are getting ready for the big season, which is next year. You've got the continuation of the show Willow, which comes out on November 30th. If you haven't seen the original film, watch that before you watch the show. But the original film was fantastic. But after again, that has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's Lucasfilm. But the rest of the year is going to be Bad Batch, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, Jedi Survivor, Acolyte. There's so many Star Wars projects happening next year, and there's so much content to look forward to. And there's probably Star Wars projects that haven't even been announced yet.
A fun thing that I think that we're going to start seeing a little bit more in the transition of Disney Plus is them sharing actors. It is pretty funny seeing how much like the difference between like the character of Luthen is comparatively to his role in like Thor: The Dark World. Like he's completely wasted in one and completely like beautifully in his element. And I would love to see more actors because I know that they have them under their belt. Like, hey, like you want to come and do something for Star Wars? You want to do a cameo in Star Wars? You want to be a character in Star Wars? Like, let's go for it. Because I know that a lot of Marvel people who work on like Marvel films and act in Marvel films were like, they love Star Wars. They grew up with Star Wars. And I would love to see them in the show. I mean, is there any characters or actors that you would love to see pop up in a Star Wars show, film, and going towards the future?
That's not playing a droid.
I think I know how you guys are going to feel about this, but I want to see
Chris Evans,
Chris Pratt, and
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt would be funny.
The only reason why I'm saying Chris Pratt, because I'm thinking of him in the role of a Legends character, Dash Rendar. I would love to see him come in as him. Because that is basically Star-Lord. yeah. I loved Dash Rendar growing up, and we've seen the same type of ship, in canon, the Outrider. But we haven't seen him yet, and I would love a famous actor to play him. But honestly, you're right. He is a very Star-Lord type character, so I could see Chris Pratt playing it. But Chris Evans is a big Star Wars fan too, so I would love to see him.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go play some weird role.
I wouldn't mind seeing Cumberbatch as well as like an Imperial Admiral, not Thrawn.
Everyone keeps saying Thrawn. I'm like,
I know. I don't think Thrawn, but I think that he would make a great Imperial character.
Yeah.
Even an Inquisitor.
My favorite.
Get him to play another lizard.
Yeah. The only person I see playing Thrawn is the original actor, which is Lars, who voiced him.
Yeah.
in Rebels, and we're probably going to see Thrawn next year. And
Let's go. Did you see anything in your little Ahsoka thing?
No, but we saw a lot of cameos from Star Wars Rebels, and including Sabine,
Zeb.
Zeb,
Zeb. Is he in CG or is he in practical
Chopper.
effects?
Honestly,
I can't wait to see his face because it's going to terrify children.
Yes, which is also a funny thing about because of Zeb's species was actually the original design for a Wookiee. So
who was it done by?
Ralph McQuarrie.
Wow.
Yeah. Trying to think of anything else. Ben, do you have any fun facts questions?
Fun facts. No, sorry, I thought we were still going casting.
So your view on the episodes, where does this lie in your ranking of out of 10? Where would you put this as? You're like, hey man, that was a really good episode. To ranking it wise, like, what is your view on this episode?
I'll probably give it a solid 7.
Okay.
Because because the second to last episode, it like to me sometimes is just there. Like I was just like, all right, cool, it's there. And it's because of we're waiting for the very last episode. So it's just like, okay, this is great, but I want to see the last episode. I want to see the season finale or the series finale. So that's how I always see the second to last episode of a show, because it's leading directly into those events. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it like a solid 8, because as far as setup for finales go, this was a pretty spectacular one. But coming hot off the heels of the prison break, I feel like it does need to take a step down before it ramps back up again. It was pretty great though.
Agreed.
It's definitely the best mid episode of like the 3 arc structure that I've been talking about. I feel like this is definitely like, I'm like, yep, that was a really good mid one. I like it. Yeah. Probably, yeah, like a 7.5. I'm like right in the middle of both of you guys. I mean, I feel like next episode is going to take us all the way home. So I'm very excited for that one.
I think for me, I'm more excited that after the last episode comes out, then we can just binge watch it all the way through. And kind of see. Yeah, exactly. Because now we have to do a watch party and do commentaries for our Patreon. We're on Patreon at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187 on patreon.com. Go and check it out. We have exclusive stuff and exclusive content on there. And we actually just recorded our Life Day.
Which is actually tomorrow of this.
Yes. Life
for
Day
us, it's going to be on the 17th. Yes, happy Life Day to everyone whenever this video decides to go out.
It's already Life Day for me then.
It is Life Day for you, Ben.
Yeah.
Happy Life Day, Ben.
Thank you. Happy Life Day, guys, for tomorrow.
But we actually filmed and recorded the whole holiday special, and that was just a whole journey.
How was that?
It was a journey.
Nightmare.
Ben. Yes. So if you want to cringe and have a great time with us, go and check out our Patreon and listen to that. We're also on YouTube.
YouTube. Let's go.
We post content. That was such a fake reaction, but we post content every week on there. On our YouTube channel. We're also on Instagram.
Let's go.
At Star Stuff Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Stuff Pod. TikTok, just search Star Wars Stuff. We have an email, starstuffgmail.com, Facebook, Star Stuff group, Star Stuff Podcast page. Please go on Apple Podcast, give us a review, even if it's all about David. I make that joke every week, and if you read the comments, you'll understand
very
why.
attractive man.
Yes, he is. Stuffpodcastnetwork.com. You go on there, that has all of our bios on there, including our links to our gaming channel, like just everything I'm reading off right now. It's got a link to it. Gaming channel, Twitch, SW Stuff 77. We play old games from episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, to Clone Commandos, Bounty Hunter, Pod Racing, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the new one online, you name it, we do it. Guys, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys, for all of you, and we love you so much. Again, happy Life Day. Ben, it was a pleasure. We can't wait to have you on more. Also on Patreon, we actually did the Attack the Clones extended edition commentary. So go and check that out. That's on there right now. But without further ado, my name is Colin from Josh and Ben. May the Force be with you. Happy Life Day. Max Rebo lives. All the above. Yeah.